Looks like the state of Florida has delivered a huge blow to the Disney Corporation today, revoking a decades-old rule that allows the company to operate as an independent government around its theme park. Is this the way forward for conservatives to actually fight fire with fire? Friends, it's time for Hold the Line.
But I am announcing today that we are expanding the call of what they are going to be considering this week. And so, yes, they will be considering the congressional map, but they also will be considering termination of all special districts that were enacted in Florida prior to 1968, and that includes the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. Don't mess with DeSantis. This is a guy who gets it. He understands that we are in a conflict, a battle for the soul and the future of this country. And the woke left is trying to kick at the load-bearing walls of our civilization with all of its might. We can sit around and say to ourselves, you know what? Let's try to create a neutral space. Let's not be too rough with the other side. They may be angry about that. Or we can realize that corporations have been largely weaponized by the left in the culture and, let's just be honest, political wars in this country right now to try to silence conservatism, traditional values, you name it. Corporations are the shock troops of the woke left, the biggest, most powerful, and wealthy corporations in America in particular. And that includes Disney, the great American purveyor of dreams and cartoons and fairy tales. That was then. Now Disney has executives who want to make sure that children are exposed to enough trans content and non-binary characters who have pansexual identity and ideology. I don't even know what some of this stuff means. I don't think anybody knows what some of this stuff means, quite honestly, including the people who use the words. But Disney has kind of lost its mind. Here is the Wall Street Journal writing about this special district that might just be going away when it comes to Disney. It was created in 1967, known as the Reedy Creek Improvement District. It exempts Disney from a host of regulations and certain taxes and fees. It saves Disney tens of millions of dollars a year, according to a person familiar with the company's finances who studied the issue over a decade ago. So this is a big deal for Disney. Now, why is this happening? Because Disney decided to try to influence state politics very aggressively and go against the legislature in the state of Florida as it was passing a parental rights and education law. So here's really the message that Governor Ron DeSantis is giving to the Disney Corporation. If you don't like it, build your own Florida. In fact, here's Florida State Representative Randy Fine saying, Disney's a guest, but you got to be on your best behavior.
What this is about Disney not recognizing that they are a guest in our state. They are a California company that is a guest in the state of Florida, and they are a guest that has had special privileges that no other company has had. If you want special privileges, you'd better be on your best behavior. And when you come in and misrepresent a bill that overwhelming majorities of Republicans, Democrats, even Biden voters support, you're going to have an issue in the state of Florida.
Going to have an issue. The left does this all the time. Companies will decide that if you have a bathroom policy that says you have to use the gender that you actually are for bathroom and changing room purposes, there are companies that will say, we'll no longer do business. We'll no longer film our movie in your state. That's the way the left plays the game. On the right, we sit around and say, oh, but it's capitalism. Let's just let commerce be our guide. Not so easy. And what you've seen here is a reversal. The left thought they could go on offense, and they were going to take down Florida, which has been the free state of Florida during the pandemic, economically better off than all these lockdown blue lib states. They would go after Governor Ron DeSantis, who is increasingly the most prominent and effective Republican politician in America. I'm not even sure anybody argues he's not the most effective Republican in the country right now. I'd be wondering who else would be even in the conversation, maybe Governor Youngkin, but he's just getting started in Virginia. We'll have to see. And this is all over the parental rights bill. Think about how aggressive the left was with this. They renamed the bill and then had all of their toadies and cronies in the news media, all of their supplicants in the corporate legacy media, calling it the Don't Say Gay bill, when this was just a made-up term to describe a bill that in no way says you can't say gay. That's absurd, right? Even the White House still digging in on this one, and pretending that we can't actually read the bill, which is now a law, by the way. Here's Deputy White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre saying just that.
Our view of this is that the Don't Say Gay bill is really crystal clear. It's wrong. That's our view. It is just wrong.
Okay, so what's wrong about it? Tell us what's wrong. Explain, Democrats, to the American people, what part of preventing state-paid, state-funded bureaucrats, teachers, from talking to children, not forever. I'm not talking about 8th graders and teenagers and, people are going through hormonal changes and adolescents. I'm talking about 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, kindergartners. You got to talk to kindergartners about gender identity? When people find out that that's what the bill actually says, they go, well, yeah, that seems normal, including Democrats, I might add. A majority of Democrats in the state of Florida actually believe that this bill is a good idea. So why is it so evil? What's so wrong about it? Well, here is Jen Psaki, who is a woman of the left, explaining that teachers should be inserting ideas about gender identity into the minds of very, very small children. Watch.
Don't parents have a right to have concern? I mean, we're talking specifically here about teaching about sex in kindergarten through 3rd grade. I have to say, as a parent, I would have problems with that.
But the law is not about teaching sex education. It's about teaching about gender identity. And so what do you do if a parent or a kid, should I say, a kid in one of these elementary schools says, what about Sally? Sally has 2 moms, or I'm not sure if I'm a girl or a boy. I mean, these are kids who are experiencing, these moments in their lives. I also think that there's not a big record of there being either sex education or extensive gender identity education in these schools. And this is creating a problem or a political cudgel about an issue that I don't think exists.
Isn't that fascinating? You just saw the White House press secretary tell anybody who's watching, and that was on CNN++, by the way, hat tip, good job, control room, I like that, CNN+++. That she's saying it's not about teaching sexuality or anything like that. It's about gender identity training. Oh, okay. How many people even knew what gender identity was until the last few years? I'm talking about adults, people that have been around for decades and decades. She actually wants that to happen. She wants kids to learn this stuff. And then she says it's not happening. Doesn't make any sense. When we come back, we'll have more on Governor Ron DeSantis' scorched earth tactics. I mean that in a good way. Against Disney with the host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly here on the First TV, Jesse Kelly. But let's talk about protecting your online data. A lot of companies promise your privacy is guaranteed. We know that's not true. That's why you need a new privacy and cybersecurity application tool called Secure. Spelled S-E-K-U-R. Secure is using proprietary encryption and offering secure instant messaging and email. With Secure, all of your communications based on servers and data centers hosted in Switzerland without using any of the big tech platforms. Privacy is a big issue now. Without real security, people can read your emails, messages, even your bank information. Secure will never mine your data and never ask for your phone number. You can send emails to your doctor, banker, lawyer, or anyone else with total confidence you're not being spied on by your internet provider or big tech. Secure is your solution to stop the constant theft of your digital identity. It costs only $5 for the messenger, only $10 for the messenger and email combination package. Go to secure.com and take back your privacy today. That's SEKUR.com. Use promo code BUCK for 25% off. Jesse Kelly stops by in a moment. Stick around.
And we will vote on these 2 bills. It is my hope that we will be able to proceed civilly and with decorum and with respect for one another. Read the next bill.
Democrats there throwing a temper tantrum today on the floor of the Florida House of Representatives as that legislative body voted to revoke Disney's special governing status. With the bill now headed to Ron DeSantis' desk for his signature, some are concerned that the Florida governor might be going too far and fear that the bill conflicts with a pro-business stance that conservatives usually favor. My next guest disagrees. There's one of that weak sauce around here. Joining me now, the host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly, here on the First TV, and of course, syndicated radio host nationally, Jesse Kelly. What's up, Jesse?
I don't like the loser mentality, Buck. That's what's up. Obviously, I'm not talking about you, but
Fine.
What I've said about this, you and I've talked about this privately before. On the right, government has only grown for the last 100 years, so we've never had a win. And people think we have, because, wow, we had Trump or we had Reagan or something like that. Yeah, we've had some election wins, but if you believe in limited government and all that, like we do, you've never had a win in your life. What you've had, what you think conservatism is, if that's the word we still want to use for it, is complaining when they win. That's what we do. That's a hypocritical. They're liars. That's wrong. We think that's conservatism, is complaining when they win. We don't even understand what winning is. If a corporation declares war on your values, we have the biggest children's corporation in the world. You could probably say in the world, in Disney. If they have decided they are going to purposely pervert and groom children, they've declared war on your values. If they've declared war, make war. Yes, what we're doing is right. Make them feel pain. Make them fear you. And we have so many losers on our side. And I sympathize with them, who just believe that the second you encroach, the second you make them feel any pain at all, we've gone too far. This isn't doing it the right way. We're in a war for the future of the country. Make war.
Interesting that you use that term war, because you're not the only one. The chief commissar of the teachers unions, the AFT, Randy Weingarten, chief commissar should be her official title. This is what she says about the parental rights bill in Florida. Watch this.
Same. It's this notion. And look, we've been very lucky in America, and we in some ways live in a bubble for a long time. This is propaganda. Yep. This is misinformation. This is the way in which wars start. This is the way in which hatred starts.
This is the way in which wars start, she says, talking about a parental rights bill that explicitly prevents 5-year-olds from being told, oh, you think you're a boy? No, you're actually a girl. Let's get you on some hormone therapy.
Look, it's been the greatest benefit for them, Buck. This is something I know you talk about on your shows all the time. The biggest win for the communists in this country, it actually isn't even corporate America. It isn't Hollywood. It isn't sports or whatever else you're mad they took over. The biggest thing for them has been to educate the children. They have taken children from well-meaning parents for 7-8 hours a day, and they've done this for decades. And they've taught these children to hate themselves, hate their parents, hate their country. Now they've flat out moved that into a really even more disgusting sexual realm. That is their bread and butter. They're not trying, by the way, to make your kids gay. They're trying to destroy your kids mentally and physically, so your kids will hate you and hate your country, because a broken person is easy to convert to communism. That is the goal. They're trying to break things because, look, if you get some 10-year-old boy who chops his penis off and gets a bunch of puberty blockers, what are the chances that boy, if he even lives to 18 or 19, becomes a voting, card-carrying Democrat his whole life? They're about 100%. But if you have a child who's been taught manners, who doesn't believe in that, loves his country, again, not political, loves his country, says, yes, sir, no, ma'am, good kid, what are the chances that child's going to be the political enemy of the Democratic Party? They're very, very high. They're simply recruiting new people, and schools have been their bread and butter, and threatening to take that away from them is a huge threat to them.
On this topic of winning and actually pushing the advantage when the right all of a sudden actually has won, or has done this a few times recently. It has been a rough week, rough month. You could argue a rough year for Biden and the Democrats. I think that much is clear. But the term that, right at the heart of this whole Disney situation, and what was amazing to me was, remember when that corporate executive referred to one of her children as pansexual? And I remember I made some comment like, I don't even know what pansexual means. And all these blue check journos jump in like, maybe you shouldn't be such an idiot. I'm like, no, maybe you people shouldn't be lunatics. How about that? I mean, we're seeing the left exposed in a way that I think is almost surprising to some Democrats who don't really know who's calling the shots and who's really running the behind the scenes of the party, where the real power centers are, people that have been voting Democrat because they like unions for the last 40 years or whatever. But Jesse, the term groomer really upsets them. And I think that's interesting. When they call conservatives, they call you, call me, call anybody a racist, for example, that doesn't bother me at all insofar as it's just slanderous and a lie. It's annoying that they do it, but it doesn't really, you don't get a real rise. When you call some of these people on the left groomers, or rather say that their policies go toward grooming, they get really upset. And I want to know why you think that is.
Because it's effective. Because it's true and because it's effective. And what's wild about this, Buck, is it's not just you and me, a couple right-wingers gabbing on your show about this. It's them in their own words. Of course, Libs of TikTok, the Twitter account's been famous. It's been all over the news lately. But Libs of TikTok, that account doesn't do right-wing commentary. That account takes a video that a crazy teacher with pink hair and 8,000 piercings in their face put on video, put it out there for public consumption, and Libs of TikTok simply takes it and puts it on Twitter. This is what this teacher said. This is what this teacher said. This is what this teacher said. These people, they thrive in the darkness. And this is actually great news. This is one of the things they really screwed up. They loved COVID and they used COVID to destroy the economy like they want to do. And they used it to get Donald Trump out of office. But they did not think about the fact that COVID and the school closures brought school home for parents. Parents still thought kids were learning reading, writing, and arithmetic in schools, when really they were learning some really disgusting things. And the communists did not see that coming. Parents, this has been a shock for them. You don't have to call them anything specific except for what they are. We're not calling them groomers. They are groomers. If you're a kindergarten teacher and you're upset that you can't tell a little boy that he can become a little girl, you are a groomer. That's what you are.
Yes, it's interesting that the teachers' unions, as I say, the education commissars, were so excited at the prospect of getting paid to have their members stay home and not do their jobs and abandon children for months on end. They didn't think through the second order of this, the second step of this, which was going to be, oh, but now parents will be home and they'll hear the kind of indoctrination that your children will be subjected to. I think if Republicans don't make this a huge issue going into the midterms, we don't even deserve to win. I mean, I think that's where we are. If we aren't willing to push on what is clearly a major weak spot of the left, what's the point, Jesse?
Not only, you're 100% right, Buck. It is the issue. This shouldn't be a Florida thing. This should be every race in all 50 states. That's Senate, Congress, all the way down to school board. Every Republican in the country, if they're smart, and you happen to be morally right, if they're smart, they'll be running on this issue. Even Democrat parents, we have all the poll numbers, even Democrat parents do not want their kids getting sexually indoctrinated in kindergarten. They do not. This is the biggest winner of an issue in the world. And the communists are so stupid and so insane, they're pushing back hard and wading into it. They should be shutting up about this and trying to move away. They can't stop talking about it. Jen Psaki's still running her fat mouth on the news every single day about how sad it is that we can't tell little girls they can become little boys. This is wonderful. It's a winner they've gift wrapped for us. Take it.
Speaking of Florida, Jesse, real quick, is this like a Miami Vice homage we got going on here with the T-shirt, with the blazer? What are you, Don Johnson? Do we need to get you some blonde hair dye? Are you living on a houseboat and driving around in a Ferrari? What is this?
Okay, full disclosure, I have to explain. I was actually doing some radio work and I had forgotten, I was in the middle of something and I had forgotten I was doing your show, and I looked at my phone and I thought, oh geez, I gotta do Buck now. And I didn't, I just ran and grabbed the sport coat, and I knew as soon as I sat down, I looked and I thought, oh, Buck's gonna say something. He's gonna say something, and of course you did.
All right, Crockett, just go lock up the bad guys. Thanks for hanging with us, Jesse. There we go.
See you, buddy.
Just weeks after its launch, folks, CNN's parent company has announced that the news network's long-hyped streaming service, CNN Plus, is going bye-bye. What a shame. We'll have more on that with the editor of the Fourth Watch newsletter and podcast, Steve Krakauer, coming up after the break. Let's talk about the newest sponsor here to hold the line, the Silencer Shop. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. For many gun owners, using a suppressor is a must. They protect your hearing and improve your accuracy because it minimizes recoil. Suppressors are 100% legal in 43 states, so if you want to practice safe, accurate shooting, the best way is to get your suppressors through the Silencer Shop. They have a variety of suppressors starting at just $365. My friends at Silencer Shop are the industry leaders for suppressors. They're a Texas-based company that excel at customer service. Each phone call, email, direct message, or comment is answered promptly, and they treat you like family. Their customer reviews are amazing. On Trustpilot, Silencer Shop has an average ranking of 4.9 out of 5 stars based on over 25,000 reviews. You can get more details online at the Silencer Shop website. That's silencershop.com, silencershop.com, or go on Instagram to instagram.com/silencershop. We'll be right back with more Hold the Line. It's a bad day for streaming services. Today, Warner Brothers Discovery announced that CNN Plus, should we call it CNN Minus, the streaming service that was hyped as one of the most significant developments in the history of CNN, will shut down on April 30th, just 1 month after it launched. Meanwhile, earlier this week, Netflix announced that it suffered its first subscriber loss in more than a decade in the first quarter of 2021, with a net loss of 200,000 subscribers globally. The news spooked investors, causing its shares to plunge more than 25% in extended trading. What's going on here? Netflix is projected to lose 2 million subscribers, and CNN Plus was canceled before it even got started. Correlation between companies going woke then broke can't be ignored, can it? So are people finally starting to see the left and big tech's secret agenda, and is that costing the bottom line? Let's ask editor of Fourth Watch newsletter and podcast, Mr. Steve Krakauer. Crack, good to see you.
Hey, Buck. Thanks for having me on.
What do you think, man? What the heck is this? I mean, CNN spent over $300 million preparing for the launch of CNN Plus. Is this the biggest news media launch failure in history? I mean, there are some other things that would maybe be in the running, but I can't think of anything bigger. Can you?
No, I think that this is certainly up there. We are on day 23 of CNN Plus, and it will shut down on day 32. I mean, it calls to mind Quibi, which was that mobile video app that they spent even more money. I believe it was $750 million on content, but that at least lasted like 6 months, 9 months. No, this is shocking how fast it came down. But the truth of the matter is, first of all, we can talk about the content that was on there and why it maybe wasn't so appealing to a lot of people, considering it was essentially the content that was on CNN that people were already not very interested in for free, and now they're charging an upcharge of $3 to $5 for it. But also, this launched just as Discovery, now Warner Brothers Discovery, took over the company. This was a pet project of Jeff Zucker and the old administration. They launched this thing, and now they're trying to sustain it. The new company comes in and says, this has none of our fingerprints on it. We didn't want this thing to launch in the first place. And then rather than just seeing this through for a few months, they said, let's cut the cord. This is done. Pretty shocking, but also, this is how business gets done these days.
So I think this is interesting, because I was talking about this on radio today with my co-host Clay, and I said, it seems to me like this is actually a Jeff Zucker project, right? I mean, this whole CNN Plus had to be put together because he just left, a couple of months ago? So he must have been the one. I mean, so really this is it's almost like Zucker was the guy, driving the Titanic, and he happened to switch places with somebody else before it hit the iceberg.
Right, exactly. Look, this has been in the works for more than a year now. They've been hiring up people, building this thing, building the technology, getting some marquee names, depending on how you want to look at it, but certainly spending marquee dollars to get talent from Fox News and from MSNBC and from NPR and from all other places. They finally brought them in, and this thing was set to launch in March, and Jeff gets fired, essentially, gets pushed out in February. But rather than pump the brakes at this point and start to think, all right, maybe we need to, why did we launch this without having everything kind of the clear leadership team in place? They just rolled on ahead, put this thing out there. And as we know, about 150,000 subscribers right now, approximately 10,000 people watching every day. Those numbers are not very good. And yes, we're only 3 weeks in, but that is not a good launch, particularly when you think about how much money they've invested into this and how much time and energy and marketing they've put into this. It's not off to a good start. You would think that maybe they have a longer leash, but the new bosses say, look, cut our losses now. It's done.
Certainly a lot of schadenfreude on the right about this. Let's be honest. We're having a good time with it. There's a lot of memes, Mr. Krakauer, that are going around today that are having some fun at CNN's expense. People sharing some memorable moments from CNN past to give a sense as to why did Americans apparently not want to pay for hard-hitting interviews like this one with Brian Stelter.
So 42 years later, do the two of you now happily retired, do you still watch CNN?
All the time.
Everybody watches CNN.
Yeah. Here's the difference, though. I used to anchor at CNN. Now I just yell at CNN.
Yeah, everybody does that too, right?
You can just email me, Dave. That'd be great feedback. We'll take your feedback anytime.
I mean, the team here just pulled that one. We could have a lot more fun with CNN stuff they've said on the air. But what was the premise here was what? That a channel that struggles and has maybe a third in primetime hours, a third of the viewership of, say, Fox News, its competitor, obviously from the other side of the aisle, is going to become a digital behemoth. Why? Like, what was the thinking here? Just so everyone understands. I mean, because CNN is the airport channel, right? It's the thing that like is on shelf, and so that's what you have to buy. It's the moldy bread that's all you've got in the store when you're stuck in an airport that's snowed in. So, what was the idea here?
Yeah, and the glass half full version, that would be that when major news breaks, a war in Ukraine, people turn on CNN. On a day-to-day basis, they don't have any talent that moves the needle. What was the thinking behind it? I have no idea, but let me tell you, I think there's three major problems. And Brian Stelter right there is very much exemplifies one of them. Brian has a show on Sunday that not that many people watch. Now he has a show on CNN Plus every day of the week. Jake Tapper has a show every day of the week, and it's about the news. Now we have a show on CNN Plus called Jake Tapper's Book Club, so you can hear about the books that Jake Tapper reads. Anderson Cooper has a news show on CNN. He has a show about parenting on CNN Plus. Why? Who thinks that people need this? I have absolutely no idea. Another major red flag is that, look, CNN does have content that's Discovery-like. Stanley Tucci's show, but none of these shows have hit the way that like Anthony Bourdain's show has. And I mentioned Anthony Bourdain because sadly he died 3 or 4 years ago, but he was a major part of the CNN Plus marketing just in the last couple months. They don't have the kind of hits that they used to have when it comes to these news-ish shows. So instead, yes, you can go and get the Anthony Bourdain archives, but he has sadly passed away 4 years ago now.
He's the right. Would you agree that he Steve would have been the closest thing that they had to a tent pole, a kind of big name, big show that might have been able to draw in other folks?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a model for what you might want with a streaming service. It's a bingeable show. You can watch multiple episodes. It's not tied to news of the moment. It's a lot different than, say, watching Chris Wallace interview someone like Diane Van Furstenberg for an hour. Why? I have absolutely no idea.
Do we know? I got to ask you, because so Steve, just so everyone understands, Steve knows CNN, used to work at CNN. He knows the ropes over there very well. Do you think they're going to pay out Chris Wallace his $12 million or whatever obscene salary they're giving him? I mean, how does that work? I figure probably, right? It's a talent contract.
I would say that the talent is going to get paid out. Yeah, I think there's a big question. Chris Wallace for sure. I'm curious about people like Don Lemon, who launched a talk show called The Don Lemon Show, and it aired one episode, and now it's done. What does he? I'm sure he has a clause in his contract that added to this. Now I've got a talk show, even if it airs or not. And I have to say, I mean, look, CNN Plus hired more than 200 people to work on this. That is now gone. They have said they will essentially pay 9 months severance, which is very nice for maybe a low-level production assistant that thought they were coming on to this new big thing, and it lasted for 4 weeks, and now they're out of a job. They do have 9 months severance, but it's a total disaster. And look, I noticed last week that something was wrong when the @CNN Twitter account, which you mentioned, I used to work at CNN. One of my jobs was running the @CNN Twitter account, 58 million followers. You know how many times the @CNN Twitter account mentioned CNN Plus? Zero times they have mentioned their own streaming channel. There was no marketing coordination behind this. There was no effort to sample content or to get it out into different streams. It was a mess from the beginning.
I know you have a fantastic media newsletter you put out, but I do think that the most prominent media critic in America needed to weigh in on this one as well. Former President Donald Trump. So here's what he says. Congratulations to CNN Plus on their decision to immediately fold for lack of ratings or viewers in any way, shape, or form. It was like an empty desert out there, despite spending hundreds of millions of dollars in any event. It's just one more piece of CNN and fake news we don't want to bother with anymore. I mean, Steve, I think he pretty much nails the key points.
He does, yeah. I mean, the great thing about Donald Trump is that he was such a media critic, and I mean, I wish that was a tweet now. That would have been going viral. Sadly, he can't tweet. No, he nailed it. Yeah, it was doomed kind of from the beginning. It never really made a ton of sense. I think about, we mentioned Chris Wallace as like this big splashy hire, Casey Hunt from MSNBC, Rex Chapman, the guy who has a lot of tweets about he sort of steals from other people and other memes. I watched a couple of clips of his show. Just painful. I mean, I don't know if they ever thought Rex Chapman has a Twitter follower, so let's give him a TV show. But without actually seeing how he is on TV, it was ill-conceived, and it was clearly they got a lot of money to do this thing, $300 million, and that's exciting, and you can hire a lot of people. But you have to have content. And this honestly connects to Netflix. I mean, part of the problem is with what's declining right now is the quality of the content. There's so much content out there now. You have to be good. And I know that's subjective, but you have to be good.
And it's a lot of woke crap. I just actually want something that lets my brain relax and turn off at the end of the day, not that tells me that, it's time for transgender youth indoctrination or something. But anyway, and they'll do it in like movies about the 9th century Viking conquest of England. I mean, they're really going all out with this stuff these days. Crack, we'll have you back. Good to see you, my man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Democrats are starting to sweat as a number of once safe House races have moved to the toss-up column in the latest polls. We come back in a moment here with commentary editor at the Washington Examiner, Con Carroll. He's going to give his take on the coming storm. Look, I'm skeptical by nature. When I first found out about this thing called home title theft, I was like, come on, thieves really can steal your home online? Well, yeah, actually they can. Cyber criminals can forge your name off the title of your home online and then take over as a new owner. Turns out that this is not that difficult to do. The FBI says it's a rapidly growing crime, and you're not covered by usual identity theft programs. Home Title Lock has earned my trust. Home Title Lock is what you need to put a barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect anyone tampering with your home's title, they mobilize to help shut it down. So just go to HomeTitleLock.com now, register your address, and see if you're already a victim of this crime and don't even know it. When it comes to protecting your home, tell them Buck Sexton sent you. You'll get the listener discount. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. As the midterm elections draw closer and Biden's approval rating is dropping by the day, many seats in the House and Senate the Democrats once thought were safe seem to be up for grabs. Even CNN, a reliable cheerleader for Democrats, is starting to sound the alarm bells on the possibility that Democrats could get hammered in November. Check out this headline from CNN Politics. The House playing field is coming into focus, and it's not a pretty picture for Democrats. So will we see that red wave come crashing down this November? Joining me now to discuss where we are, commentary editor at the Washington Examiner, Con Carroll. Con, good to see you.
Great to be here, Buck.
So look, I know we're going to be talking about this a lot in the months ahead, and everyone's going to be saying, well, it's a lifetime in politics, yada, yada. The Democrats are already starting to look for the panic button a little bit, so I want you to put this into context. I mean, how bad is it looking for them at this stage? Because I actually think it's going to get worse for them, too.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. Biden's about to totally repeal Title 42. There's going to be a huge border crisis. There's a lot of bad news yet to come. But even before that, we're looking at a House that's going to lose 20 to 30 seats, which would give a strong Republican majority in 2024.
So here's the generic ballot, according to Rasmussen, for Republican versus Democrat, this congressional ballot. 47% Republican, Democrat 39%. Now, we would usually expect going into a midterm election that the party in power, which is the Democrat Party, is going to be at something of a disadvantage. But how does this line up, Con, with what we've seen before at this stage, a midterm election in the first term of a new president? Are these numbers that look like what we saw going into 2010 with the historic Tea Party wave, or could it be even bigger? How do you gauge it?
It's bigger. It's much bigger. The party out of power always looks good. But on the generic ballot question, generally Republicans fare worse than Democrats. So that the Republicans are 8 points ahead already at this point points to a huge year. They are way ahead of where they were in 2010 and in 2014. So if you were just looking at the numbers, you didn't know anything else, you would expect this coming 2022 to be worse for Democrats than 2010 or 2014.
By the way, here is some of the Democrat party line starting to pull apart. I mean, people are realizing they got a big problem here. Here is Stephen Ratner, who's a former Obama advisor. He was on MSNBC, and he shared some numbers for the public's ability to trust one party or the other with a variety of topics. Watch this one.
People ask, which party would you trust to handle an issue more in Congress? And on inflation, it was the Republicans 46 to 32, so a spread of 14 points. On national security, of all things, it was 48 to 35, a spread of 13 points. And on the economy, it was 47 to 36, a spread of 11 points. And so there's simply not a belief among the American people that the Democrats are well equipped to handle pretty much any problem at the moment, unfortunately.
It seems almost like the perception is settling in across America. Democrats not good at governing, good at whining about January 6th all day long, not good about actually running the country.
It's well earned. Look, I mean, this is a president who butchered the job in Afghanistan, so he has no credibility on foreign policy. That's why Ukraine's not helping him. This is a president that created the border crisis by ending Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. This is a president that created the inflation crisis by having a huge $1 trillion stimulus bill that was completely unipartisan. All of these problems are of his own creation. They've earned these bad numbers, and they're going to get justice in 2022.
What do you think are some of the races, Senate side, or if you think one on the House side is particularly noteworthy as a bellwether, as something that's indicative of a larger trend? Right now, I know we still have primaries to go with, but in terms of contested states or contested districts, what are you watching as, if Republicans start to run the table with the following, it's going to be a red wave of life we've never seen? I mean, what are the states you're looking at?
Sure. I'm a Senate guy, so I'm probably going to pick Senate races and not House races. But I think, if you look at someplace like New Hampshire or Arizona, where Hassan is barely hanging on, if that state goes red, it's going to be just a huge year for the Republicans. And then if you want to stretch it even just a little bit further, of course, in Nevada, you have Cortez Castro out there, and she's falling behind. But right next door, or not right next door, 2 states over in Colorado, then it's up as well. And if it's a big enough wave, I think you could see them losing in states like Colorado, too.
Here is the mainstream media, or the Democrat-aligned corporate media, as I prefer to call them, showing how worried they are about what they're calling a Trump takeover, of course, in 2024, based on how these midterms, they're just assuming it'll be Trump. Watch this.
A part of what we have to do here in the midterm is portray a message of unfinished business. We have to put Trump back on the ballot, but that does not mean that we get to make every Republican seem like Trump. It means that we have to literally explain that if Republicans win the House and the Senate in 2022, they will reinstall Trump in 2024.
I mean, first of all, no, but beyond that also, that's not going to help them going into the midterms.
They have no other playbook, right? I mean, if you look at the congressional calendar, all that they have left to do is the January 6th committee. That's their only play that they have. And so that's why you saw, news breaking this week where they tried to shame, Chip Roy and Mike Lee with text to Mark Meadows. The only thing they have is January 6th. And so they're going to try to make as much hay, as much drama as they can out of the January 6th committee. And it's just not going to work.
Amazing to watch this all play out. What's your prediction? We'll play this back for you after the election. For Senate, because you're a Senate guy, Senate pickup GOP, what are we looking at in your mind?
I say they get 54.
54. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice solid majority. Do you want to give us a House number, or you want to hold back on that one?
No. I'll go ahead and say 25.
Wow. I think it's going to be more like 50. So, Con, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm a hopeful guy. What can I tell you? But let's see. Thanks so much, man. Good to see you.
Anytime.
When reporters call out Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot on the soaring crime and just dysfunction in her city, she tells them she will not dignify their comments. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got that story coming from the Windy City and more in Quick Hits up next. Joe Biden seems confused when answering a question about Title 42, and the White House doubles down on keeping America dependent on foreign oil. We have those stories in Quick Hits. Let's get right to it. So Joe Biden was asked about Title IV. Now, he did, to be fair, he did clarify this today. He was asked about this yesterday, but we do want to show you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Asked about this earlier today and then had to clarify it later in the day. But here's what the commander-in-chief sounded like when he was asked at a press conference about Title 42, and he clearly thought he just didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Watch this.
On Title 42, sir, are you considering delaying lifting Title 42?
No, what I'm considering is continuing to hear from well, first of all, there's going to be an appeal by the Justice Department, because as a matter of principle, we want to be able to be in a position where if in fact it is strongly concluded by the scientists that we need Title 42, that we be able to do that. But there has been no decision on extending Title 42.
You can just sort of see the wires getting crossed in real time where he thinks he's talking about the CDC weighing in on the mask mandate and the DOJ bringing a challenge to the judge in Florida who overturned it. But he actually then gets confused with Title 42, which is also a CDC authority that has to do with the southern border, which the CDC is not currently involved in trying to weigh in on and have the DOJ overturn, because it's just, all scrambled up there, folks. He's the commander-in-chief, though. Democrats thought this was a really good idea. Biden's climate advisor, Gina McCarthy, says Biden remains absolutely committed to not moving forward with an additional drilling on public lands. Watch this one.
President Biden remains absolutely committed to not moving forward with additional drilling on public lands. The challenge that we faced was that we had a court that ordered that a new lease to be done. The Department of Energy had no choice but to put it out. But they also found ways to reduce the size of that and its impact. And we'll keep doing what we need to do to appeal those decisions and to make our case in a court.
I mean, they keep telling you that they're going to do everything they can to bring down the price of gas, but they actually aren't interested in doing that. They're interested in saying that because it's politically important for them, but they would rather continue this charade of, oh yeah, just give us some time. We'll figure this out. When there actually comes to decision making, no interest. This was honestly one of my favorite moments of the week. Lori Lightfoot is a terrible mayor. It's just a fact, okay? It's obvious. Everybody knows this. Even Democrats know that she's just really bad at the job. Chicago is in rough shape. The crime is completely out of control. It's worse than it has ever been. And there's all kinds of dysfunction on the streets. It's not a well-run city. We know this. And here's a random reporter, I don't even know who this guy is, who's just like, you know you're horrible at this and you shouldn't run for re-election, right? Here's how that went when he asked the mayor to her face.
Every time you have a press conference, you say crime is down. The economy is booming.
Well, that's not true, but get your question, sir.
Across the street, we had a police officer on duty, the victim of a hit and run. We have Michigan Avenue, the magnificent miles now referred to as the Mile of Fear. The Water Tower Place has thrown the keys back to the lender. They say they don't want to be in Chicago anymore. Real Chicagoans are asking me, how could you possibly even consider running for re-election as mayor of the city of Chicago after all the harm you've caused?
Well, I disagree with you fundamentally, and I don't think I need to address any and dignify your comments 1 second further. Next question.
Notice how she doesn't even have a real response to those allegations, right? How about we brought crime down in the last 6 months, 20%, and we've had more economic investment, whatever. By the way, I'm making up those numbers, but I'm just saying if she actually had a worthwhile response, she would have. I mean, that guy's just called you out. He just straight up said, you're bad at your job. Someone says you're bad at your job and you're good at your job, you fight back. You don't say, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. But she is bad at her job. Here's former health advisor to President Joe Biden, Dr. Michael Osterholm, saying that, the mask mandate was really overstated. Watch.
You know, without sounding as a contrarian or somehow trying to undercut public health, you have to know that I am a very pro-respiratory protection masking person. but that requires an N95 respirator. We know how highly infectious this virus is, and to use face cloth coverings or even surgical masks leaves you still largely unprotected, and that is a big challenge. Well, if you look at the mask mandate, it was all about the vast majority of people wearing face cloth coverings or surgical masks, or if you're on a plane and you're eating or drinking, you don't have to wear it at all. I think the mask mandate has been really overstated in terms of how much you can protect people.
Sounds like me for the last 2 years. And I'm not some doctor who is an advisor to Biden, but I just know things. I'm not a moron. That's it for tonight's Hold the Line. The No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly is next. Shields high.